In a world that prides itself on progress and equality, one incident in a small-town grocery store shook the community to its core, igniting outrage and sparking a heated debate about racism and justice. Imagine walking into a place that should feel welcoming and safe, only to be met with a cold stare and a refusal to serve you, simply because of the color of your skin. That's exactly what happened when a young black customer attempted to make a routine purchase, only to be met with hostility from a cashier who was supposed to provide service. What followed was a shocking revelation that would change everything we thought we knew about the people in our neighborhoods. As tensions rose in the store, witnesses watched in disbelief as the cashier, fueled by prejudice, made it clear that they would not serve the customer. The air was thick with disbelief and anger as other shoppers began to murmur amongst themselves, unsure of how to respond. Some felt compelled to intervene, while others stood frozen, grappling with the uncomfortable reality unfolding before them. This was not just a moment of individual cruelty. It was a flashpoint that exposed deeper societal issues, prompting questions about the biases that linger in everyday interactions. But what many didn't realize was that the story didn't end there. The refusal to serve was only the beginning. The store owner, an unassuming figure who seemed to blend into the background, watched the scene unfold with a heavy heart. As news of the incident spread like wildfire through social media, the community rallied in support of the young customer, demanding accountability and change. They called for a boycott of the store, insisting that no one should ever feel unwelcome or devalued in a place that should be a cornerstone of the community. Just when everyone thought they had the story figured out, a shocking twist emerged. In a series of interviews, the store owner decided to speak out, revealing not only their own background, but also the complex layers that shape the dynamics in the store. Who was this owner, and what did their history reveal about the roots of the cashier's actions? Did they know about the prejudice displayed by their employee, or was it a complete surprise to them? The owner's true identity and motivations opened a Pandora's box of questions that would leave the community even more divided. As we delve deeper into this story, we'll uncover the painful truths behind this incident, exploring the lives of those involved and examining how one moment of intolerance can ripple through a community, sparking a movement for change. How will the young customer respond to the betrayal and discrimination they faced? What will the owner do to address the situation and restore faith in their store? Join us as we navigate this powerful narrative filled with raw emotions, shocking revelations, and a quest for justice, leaving you on the edge of your seat, eager for what comes next. As news of the incident circulated, social media erupted with outrage. Posts flooded in, detailing the cashier's refusal to serve, with hashtags demanding justice and accountability. Local influencers joined the conversation, sharing their own experiences with racism and urging their followers to support the young customer. The small-town grocery store quickly became the focal point of a growing movement, with many calling for a boycott, until meaningful changes were made. The tension in the air was palpable. The community was at a crossroads. In the days that followed, the young customer became a reluctant symbol of the fight against racism. Friends and family rallied around them, encouraging them to speak out and share their story. At first, they hesitated, unsure of how to navigate this newfound spotlight. It wasn't just about the incident anymore. It was about amplifying voices that had long been silenced. With each passing day, they felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on their shoulders. Could they really make a difference, or was this just a fleeting moment of outrage that would soon be forgotten? Meanwhile, the store owner wrestled with their own turmoil. They had always prided themselves on fostering an inclusive environment and believed that their store served as a gathering place for the community. The incident shattered that illusion, leaving them questioning everything. They felt blindsided by the actions of the cashier, who had been part of their team for years. How could someone they trusted behave in such a discriminatory manner? The owner knew they had to take action, but was torn between addressing the situation head-on and the fear of backlash that could further divide the community. As the days turned into weeks, the community meetings began. Activists, concerned citizens, and local leaders gathered to discuss the best course of action. The young customer stood up, sharing their experience with vulnerability. "It's not just about me," they said, their voice trembling with emotion. "It's about everyone who has faced this kind of hatred. We need to address the underlying issues, not just this one incident." The room erupted in applause, and the young customer felt a surge of hope. They weren't just a victim, they were a voice for change. Yet, the atmosphere was thick with uncertainty. Some attendees expressed support for the young customer, while others were hesitant, fearing the potential consequences of calling out the store and its staff. Tensions rose as discussions turned heated, and the divide within the community became more pronounced. People began to take sides, with some arguing for forgiveness and understanding, while others demanded accountability and consequences for the cashier's actions. The owner watched from the sidelines, grappling with the harsh reality of their store's role in this conflict. With the mounting pressure, the owner decided it was time to address the situation publicly. They scheduled a press conference, hoping to clarify their position and reassure the community that they stood against racism. As they prepared their speech, they couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled in their stomach. They needed to communicate not just their disappointment in the cashier, but also their commitment to creating a more inclusive environment. But would their words be enough to mend the fractures that had emerged? On the day of the press conference, the store was filled with an electric tension. News crews arrived, cameras flashing as reporters set up their equipment. The owner stepped up to the podium, their heart racing as they faced the crowd. "Thank you all for being here today," they began, their voice wavering. "I want to address the incident that has caused so much pain in our community. I am deeply sorry for what happened. Our store has always been a place where everyone should feel welcome. Racism has no place here, and I am committed to making necessary changes." As they spoke, some in the crowd nodded in agreement, while others crossed their arms, skepticism etched on their faces. The owner continued, detailing plans to implement diversity training for all employees, emphasizing that they would not tolerate any form of discrimination. "I urge you all to hold me accountable," they said, trying to project sincerity. "Together, we can create a better environment for everyone." But before the owner could finish their speech, a voice rang out from the back of the crowd. "What about the cashier? Are they still working here?" The question hung in the air, thick with expectation. The owner felt their heart drop. They had anticipated this question, but had hoped to avoid it. "We are currently reviewing the situation," they replied, struggling to maintain their composure. "I assure you that we will take appropriate action." But their words seemed to fall flat, and the tension in the room intensified. Following the press conference, the backlash intensified. Social media exploded with opinions, dissecting every word the owner had said. Some praised their commitment to change, while others criticized them for not taking immediate action against the cashier. The owner felt as if they were trapped in a whirlwind, struggling to keep up with the rapidly shifting sentiments in the community. As the days passed, they received countless messages, some supportive, others filled with rage. They knew they had to confront the cashier, but fear gripped them. What if the cashier refused to take responsibility? What if the confrontation only fueled the anger further? The young customer, meanwhile, found strength in the support they received from the community. They began to speak at events, sharing their story and advocating for change. Each time they stepped onto a stage, they felt the energy of the crowd lift them, fueling their resolve. But even amidst the applause, a nagging doubt lingered. Was their voice enough? They witnessed the division growing deeper, and it weighed heavily on their heart. What if their efforts only brought more conflict instead of healing? As the store owner prepared for their meeting with the cashier, the atmosphere was tense. They had always seen the cashier as a reliable employee, someone who had worked tirelessly to support the store. But now, the reality of the situation loomed large. The owner knew they had to confront the biases that lay beneath the surface. As they entered the back office, the cashier sat there, looking both defiant and anxious. The owner took a deep breath, trying to steady their racing heart. "We need to talk," they began, feeling the gravity of the moment. The cashier's eyes narrowed. "About what? I was just doing my job." "No," the owner replied firmly. "You weren't. You denied service to a customer based on their race. That is not acceptable. We can't let this behavior define our store." The room fell silent as the tension grew thicker. "Look, I didn't mean it like that," the cashier shot back defensively, their voice rising. "It's just how I feel." "Your feelings have real consequences," the owner said, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "This isn't just about you. It's about everyone who walked through those doors." As the confrontation escalated, the owner realized that their employee was not willing to take responsibility for their actions. The weight of their disappointment settled in like a lead blanket. How could someone they once considered an ally harbor such deep-seated prejudices? The conversation took a turn, becoming more heated as both sides spoke over one another. The owner felt frustration mounting, recognizing that this meeting was not going the way they had hoped. They had come to seek understanding, but instead found walls built of fear and anger. "I'm going to have to make a decision about your future here," the owner said finally, their voice steady but resolute. The cashier shot back, "You can't just throw me out. I've been here for years." "Your actions have consequences," the owner replied, their heart heavy. "We cannot tolerate this kind of behavior. I have a responsibility to the community." With that, the meeting ended in a stalemate. The owner left the office, feeling drained, while the cashier remained behind, simmering with resentment. As the door closed, the owner couldn't shake the sense of dread that loomed over the store. They knew that whatever decision they made next would ripple through the community, either healing old wounds or deepening the divide. Meanwhile, the young customer continued to mobilize support, attending rallies and speaking to local news outlets about their experience. Their story resonated with many, and they became a beacon of hope for those seeking change. Yet, amidst the momentum, they felt a growing anxiety. What if the owner chose not to take any action? What if this was all for nothing? They had poured their heart into this movement, and the thought of it collapsing weighed heavily on their mind. As the pressure built, the owner faced a crucial decision. They had to decide whether to let the cashier go or to provide another chance, hoping that training and discussions could lead to change. They spent sleepless nights contemplating the implications of either choice. The community was watching closely, and the stakes had never felt higher. How could they balance compassion with accountability? Days passed as the tension reached a boiling point. The community meetings continued, and every time the young customer took the stage, they spoke with fire and conviction, but behind the scenes, doubt lingered. Activists pressed for action, urging the owner to act swiftly. "This is about more than just one incident," they emphasized. "We're talking about systemic racism and the need for real change." Yet, the owner felt trapped. They understood the gravity of the situation, but the cashier's loyalty and years of service weighed heavily on their heart. Would they be making a mistake by severing ties with someone they had trusted for so long? The internal conflict was overwhelming, and every moment felt like a countdown to an inevitable decision. As the deadline for a public statement approached, the owner finally reached out to the young customer, seeking a conversation. They understood that it was time to engage with the very person affected most by the cashier's actions. They hoped to gain insight into what true accountability looked like from someone on the front lines of this fight. When they met, the young customer's resolve was evident. "I appreciate you reaching out," they said, their voice steady but passionate. "But this isn't just about punishment. It's about creating a safe space for everyone. If you keep the cashier, what message does that send?" The owner felt a lump in their throat, recognizing the truth in those words. "I'm trying to find a balance," they confessed. "I want to address the issue without making it worse. But I don't want to lose the trust of the community either." The conversation flowed, each person sharing their perspective on the importance of accountability and the potential for change. The owner listened intently, understanding that this was about more than just one person. It was about building a future that rejected hate and embraced understanding. But as they spoke, the weight of the decision loomed larger than ever. Time was running out. The community awaited the owner's decision, and the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. What would happen next? Would the owner take the bold step to remove the cashier, or would they choose to believe in the possibility of redemption? The uncertainty hung in the air like a storm cloud, ready to unleash its fury at any moment. As the owner prepared to make their statement, they knew that whatever they decided would send shockwaves through the community. They had the chance to set a precedent for change, to stand firmly against racism and intolerance. But the fear of backlash and division weighed heavily on their mind. Would they be strong enough to do what was right, even in the face of uncertainty. With the deadline approaching, both the owner and the young customer prepared for the moment that could define their community for years to come. In this critical juncture, one thing was clear: the fight against racism was far from over, and the choices made in the coming days would reverberate long into the future, shaping not only the store, but the very fabric of the community itself. The tension was palpable, and everyone waited with bated breath for the next chapter of this unfolding story. As the community braced itself for the store owner's decision, a new layer of complexity began to unfold. Rumors started to swirl, ignited by an anonymous tip that sent shockwaves through social media. A video surfaced, recorded by a bystander during the incident, capturing not just the refusal to serve, but also the cashier's derisive comments aimed at the young customer. The footage was raw and unfiltered, showing the cashier's blatant disrespect and prejudice in a way that left little room for interpretation. The community quickly mobilized, with activists urging everyone to share the video widely. It wasn't long before the hashtag #JusticeForAll began trending as outrage mounted. The owner, who had been wrestling with the decision of whether to keep the cashier, now found themselves facing a different challenge altogether. The public's anger was palpable, and the pressure to act became more intense than ever. What had once been a personal decision now felt like a public trial, with every eye focused on their next move. As the store owner prepared for the impending statement, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Friends and family of the young customer rallied together, forming a coalition demanding accountability, not just for the cashier, but for the entire store management. They argued that the owner, by choosing to ignore the underlying issues, was complicit in a culture of intolerance. In a matter of days, this coalition organized a protest outside the store, declaring that the community would not rest until justice was served. They waved signs, reading "No room for racism" and "Stand up, speak out," their voices echoing with determination. The owner watched in disbelief as the situation escalated. They had wanted to be a beacon of hope and unity, but now it felt like the walls were closing in. The protests drew attention from local news outlets, and cameras captured the passionate pleas of the young customer and their supporters. The store, once a symbol of community gathering, was now synonymous with division and unrest. It was as if every decision they had made in the past few weeks was now under a magnifying glass. In the midst of this chaos, an unexpected twist emerged. The cashier, feeling cornered by the public outcry and the mounting pressure, decided to go public as well. They reached out to a local news station, claiming that the young customer had misrepresented the situation. The cashier painted themselves as a victim of misunderstanding, suggesting that their words had been taken out of context. "I never intended to be racist," they insisted during an interview. "I was simply following store policy." The statement infuriated the community further, and the backlash against the cashier intensified. The young customer, already reeling from the initial incident, was faced with a fresh wave of frustration and confusion. They felt that the cashier's defense was an attempt to downplay the very real impact of their actions. It was not just a matter of misunderstanding, it was about systemic issues that needed to be addressed. The mounting tension felt like a storm brewing on the horizon, threatening to unleash its fury at any moment. As the protests continued, the owner felt their resolve wavering. Every moment spent considering the future of their store felt like an eternity. They reached out to community leaders, seeking guidance on how to navigate the growing crisis. Many urged them to act decisively, to terminate the cashier, and make a bold statement against racism. But the owner also grappled with a sense of loyalty, feeling conflicted about letting go of an employee who had been a part of their team for so long. In a desperate attempt to regain control of the narrative, the owner decided to hold an emergency community meeting. They hoped to engage directly with their customers, allowing for open dialogue about the issues at hand. But as the day of the meeting approached, they received an anonymous letter that sent chills down their spine. The letter contained threats, warning the owner that if they chose to fire the cashier, there would be severe repercussions. "Your store will be targeted, and you'll regret crossing me," it read ominously. Feeling trapped, the owner wrestled with fear and doubt. They understood the urgency of addressing racism within their store, yet the letter hinted at a larger, darker force at play. Who had sent it, and why? Were there deeper connections within the community that they hadn't recognized? The stakes were rising, and the situation felt precarious. The owner was caught between the pressure of the community's demands and the looming threat against their safety. When the day of the community meeting arrived, the atmosphere was charged with tension. The store was filled with people, some eager for change, others uncertain about what was unfolding. The owner stood at the front, their heart racing as they prepared to address the crowd. "Thank you for coming," they began, trying to project calmness. "I want to hear your thoughts and concerns as we navigate this difficult situation together." As voices rose in passionate discourse, the young customer stood up to share their experiences once more, emphasizing the need for accountability and change. "We are here to stand against racism in all forms," they declared, their voice unwavering. "We can't afford to stay silent any longer." The crowd erupted in applause, but amidst the cheers, the tension crackled like electricity in the air. Suddenly, the cashier arrived, seemingly emboldened by the chaos around them. They walked straight to the front of the room, their presence igniting a wave of murmurs. "I need to speak," they announced, cutting through the crowd's energy. The owner felt their stomach twist. This was not what they had envisioned. The cashier was taking a stand, and the moment felt loaded with potential for disaster. "I've heard enough," the cashier said, their voice sharp. "You all want to blame me for what happened, but no one seems to care about the store's policies. I was just doing my job." Gasps echoed through the room, and the owner felt the blood rush to their face. The atmosphere shifted as people began to react. Some were furious, others were confused, and a few expressed a sense of solidarity with the cashier's words. The young customer stepped forward, determined to counter the cashier's narrative. "This isn't just about following rules, it's about treating people with respect and dignity. You can't hide behind policies when lives are affected." The tension escalated, voices clashing as the meeting erupted into chaos. The owner, feeling overwhelmed, struggled to restore order, but the division in the room was undeniable. As tempers flared and arguments erupted, the owner realized that this meeting was not just about the incident. It was about the community's struggle with deep-rooted issues of race and privilege. This conflict had revealed cracks in the foundation of their community, and it became clear that resolving this tension would take more than just addressing one incident. The owner felt a growing urgency to act, yet the threats from the anonymous letter loomed large in their mind. With the stakes higher than ever, the meeting spiraled out of control. Accusations flew, and emotions ran rampant. The owner stood at the center, feeling like a spectator in a storm that had taken on a life of its own. Would they find the courage to address the very real issues of racism in their store? Or would they let fear dictate their choices? The tension was thick, and the resolution felt miles away, even as the community's calls for justice grew louder and more insistent. As the chaos continued, the owner made a split-second decision. They stepped forward, raising their hands in an attempt to silence the crowd. "Enough. We need to take a step back and really listen to each other," they implored, desperation coloring their voice. "This is about more than just one employee or one customer. This is about all of us. We have to confront our biases and work together to create a community where everyone feels safe and valued." The crowd quieted, surprised by the owner's emotional plea. They could feel the tension shifting again, but the path forward was still unclear. In this moment of uncertainty, the owner realized that they had to face not just the cashier's actions, but also their own role in perpetuating a culture of silence and complicity. The anonymous letter weighed heavily on their mind, but they refused to let fear dictate their actions any longer. They were ready to confront the issues head-on, even if it meant risking everything. As the meeting drew to a close, one thing became painfully clear. The journey toward healing would be fraught with challenges. The owner felt a mix of hope and dread as they prepared for what lay ahead. The stakes were now higher than ever, and the community stood at a crossroads. Would they rise together to dismantle the barriers of racism, or would they remain divided, allowing fear and hatred to win? The story was far from over, and the next chapter would demand courage, unity, and an unwavering commitment to justice. The uncertainty hung in the air, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats, awaiting the outcome of this pivotal moment in their community. As the owner looked out at the crowd, their heart raced. The room was filled with anxious faces, some hopeful, others skeptical. They could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on them, knowing that this could either be a turning point for the community or a catalyst for further division. They took a deep breath, steeling themselves for what they were about to say. I understand that I haven't done enough. I want to change that. I want to listen, to learn, and to make this store a place where everyone feels welcome. The audience was quiet, absorbing the owner's words. A few heads nodded, while others remained wary, unsure if this was just another empty promise. But the owner pressed on. Today, I'm announcing that we will hold a community forum every month. It's time to talk about the issues that affect us all. We need to engage in open dialogue, and I want to hear your stories. Cheers erupted from the crowd, but the owner wasn't done yet. As for the cashier, I have made the difficult decision to let them go. This isn't just about one person, it's about creating a culture that stands against racism and intolerance. I know this is a big step, but it's necessary if we want to rebuild trust within our community. The crowd erupted into applause, a mix of relief and newfound hope washing over the room. The owner felt a surge of emotion, realizing that they had taken a decisive step toward addressing the deep-seated issues that plagued their store and the community at large. But just as the moment of triumph began to settle in, a figure stepped forward from the back of the room. It was the cashier, a tense expression etched across their face. "I can't believe this is happening," the cashier said, their voice trembling with anger. "You think you can just throw me away like that? I'm not the only one who thinks like this. I'm just the one you're punishing." The atmosphere shifted, the tension palpable as everyone held their breath. The owner felt their stomach drop. This wasn't over yet. "What do you mean?" they asked, trying to remain calm amidst the rising storm. The cashier took a step closer, their eyes narrowing. "You think you're making a statement, but you have no idea how deep this goes. You're targeting me, but you're ignoring the real problem." Before the owner could respond, the cashier revealed a stack of flyers they had been holding behind their back. "These are from a group I'm part of. We believe in keeping our community safe from outsiders like them." They pointed toward the young customer, who stood frozen, shock etched on their face. "And I know you think you're doing the right thing, but I'm not the only one who feels this way. There are more of us. You just can't see it." Gasps echoed through the room as the realization hit. The cashier wasn't just a rogue employee. They were a part of a larger network. The owner's heart raced as they processed the implications. This was more than an isolated incident. This was a systemic issue that had taken root within the community. The young customer stepped forward, their voice strong, despite the fear that flickered in their eyes. "If you think you can intimidate us, you're wrong. We will stand together against hate in all forms. This isn't just about one store. It's about our lives, our safety, and our right to exist without fear." The crowd erupted into cheers again, rallying behind the young customer. The cashier's bravado seemed to waver as they realized the strength of the community's unity. The owner seized the moment, stepping closer to the cashier. "This is your chance to make a choice. You can either continue down this path of hate, or join us in creating a better future for everyone. We need to break the cycle." For a moment, the cashier looked torn, their expression shifting from anger to uncertainty. But before they could respond, a figure emerged from the back of the room, a tall man with a commanding presence. He had been silent until now, but his voice boomed as he addressed the crowd. "I'm here to support the owner and the young customer. I've seen the hate that festers in this community, and I refuse to let it continue. We are stronger together, and it's time for all of us to take a stand." The crowd erupted into applause, and the owner felt a surge of hope. But just as things seemed to be moving toward resolution, the cashier pulled out a small device, a recording device. "You think this is over? I have recordings of conversations, plans, everything," they said, smirking. "You're all in this together, whether you like it or not. I'll expose you, your businesses, and your little community forum." The atmosphere shifted dramatically again. The owner's heart sank as they understood the gravity of the situation. The cashier's words echoed in their mind, a haunting reminder that the battle against hatred was far from finished. "This isn't just about my actions. It's about all of us confronting the uncomfortable truths in our lives," the owner said, their voice steady despite the turmoil. The crowd was still, absorbing the tension. The owner felt the weight of their words. If you have evidence, bring it to light. Let's have the conversations that need to happen. But understand this, we will not be intimidated or silenced. The young customer joined in, adding, "We are here to support each other. If there are deeper issues at play, let's bring them to the forefront. Together, we can dismantle the systems of hate." The owner saw hope flickering in the eyes of those around them. This could be the moment where everything shifted, a chance to expose the underlying issues and create lasting change. As the crowd began to rally, the owner felt a sense of determination wash over them. They had to act, to confront the fear head-on, and to push for unity in the face of adversity. But as the meeting drew to a close, and discussions began to take shape, the cashier's voice lingered in the air, a reminder that this was just the beginning. The story would continue to unfold, and the community would need to band together to confront the deep-rooted issues that threatened to tear them apart. As the crowd began to disperse, a chilling thought crossed the owner's mind. What other secrets lay hidden in the shadows of their community? They would have to stay vigilant, committed to fostering an environment of understanding and respect, even as the specter of racism loomed large. The tension was still there, unresolved, but the owner felt a sense of purpose igniting within them. They were ready to confront whatever came next, and they would do it alongside their community. With a renewed sense of hope and determination, they stepped outside to greet the gathering crowd, ready to embrace the challenges that lay ahead, knowing they were not alone in this fight. And as they looked out at the faces of those who had gathered to support one another, they realized that together, they could pave the way for a brighter, more inclusive future. But the final twist had yet to reveal itself, leaving everyone in suspense about what would come next in this ongoing struggle against hatred. As the crowd began to disperse, the owner felt a mix of hope and trepidation. The meeting had ended, but the real work was just beginning. They stood outside the store, taking a moment to breathe in the cool evening air, reflecting on how a single incident had ignited a community's passion for change. The whispers of doubt that had lingered in the back of their mind were being replaced with a sense of purpose. The young customer approached, their expression a blend of relief and uncertainty. "Thank you for what you said in there," they began, their voice soft but firm. "It feels like we're finally moving in the right direction. But I'm worried about what's next. Will we actually see change?" The owner nodded, understanding the weight of the question. Change takes time, and it requires all of us to stay committed. "I know we can't undo what happened overnight, but we can begin to dismantle the systems that allowed it to happen." Over the next few weeks, the owner followed through on their promise of monthly community forums. Each gathering was filled with passionate discussions, where people shared their experiences, fears, and hopes. The dialogue was sometimes uncomfortable, revealing deep-seated biases that had been ignored for far too long. Yet, within that discomfort, lay the seeds of healing and understanding. As the forums continued, the owner reached out to local organizations and community leaders, inviting them to participate. They realized the importance of forming alliances and building a coalition that would advocate for ongoing education and awareness. It was a journey toward creating a safe space, not just in the store, but throughout the entire community. Meanwhile, the former cashier remained a point of contention. Their threats lingered, casting a shadow over the community. The owner decided to take proactive measures. They sought legal advice, understanding that the recordings the cashier claimed to possess could be a significant risk. They also encouraged the young customer and others affected by the incident to come forward and share their stories with local media, amplifying the message of accountability and change. One day, as the community gathered for another forum, the owner noticed a sense of excitement in the air. They announced that a local journalist had agreed to cover the story, shining a light on the community's commitment to change. This was an opportunity to reach a wider audience and inspire other communities facing similar challenges. As the journalist arrived, cameras clicked and microphones were placed in front of those eager to share their stories. The young customer took center stage, expressing their gratitude for the support they received. "This isn't just about what happened to me. It's about all of us working together to create a better future. We must continue to hold each other accountable and demand change." The audience listened intently, feeling the weight of their words. It was a moment of unity, a powerful reminder that voices could rise against injustice. The owner stood by, feeling a swell of pride for what had been achieved. The journey was still ongoing, but the community had made significant strides in addressing the issues that had plagued them for so long. As weeks turned into months, the forums became a regular part of the community's calendar. People from all walks of life attended, eager to engage in meaningful discussions. They tackled tough topics, explored personal biases, and celebrated their progress together. The owner made a point to share updates on the changes being implemented in the store, emphasizing a commitment to diversity and inclusivity. The former cashier, however, continued to loom as a threat. They were not willing to let go of the situation quietly. The owner received anonymous tips that the cashier was organizing others who felt similarly. They're gathering a following, a concerned community member warned during one of the forums. We need to be cautious. The owner acknowledged the concern, knowing that the journey to creating a more inclusive community would not be without challenges. In response, they organized a special forum to discuss community safety, inviting law enforcement officials to participate. We need to be prepared to face any backlash, but we also need to ensure that our message of unity and inclusivity remains strong, the owner stated. The meeting drew an even larger crowd. Attendees shared their fears and frustrations, while law enforcement officials reassured the community that they were there to support them. This isn't just a store issue, it's a community issue, one officer said, emphasizing the importance of collaboration. We want to work together to make sure everyone feels safe. As the discussions progressed, the owner felt a sense of resilience growing within the community. They had transformed fear into action, and the unity displayed was palpable. But just as things began to settle, an unexpected twist emerged. One afternoon, a news bulletin flashed across the local channels, revealing that the former cashier had been arrested for a series of hate-related incidents in other areas. The owner's heart sank as they processed the news. "It's not over," the young customer said quietly, their voice filled with a mixture of relief and concern. "We have to keep pushing forward. This is a reminder that there's still work to be done." And they were right. The arrest brought both a sense of closure and a renewed urgency to the fight against racism in their community. It was a turning point that sparked deeper conversations about accountability and the importance of addressing not just individual actions, but the systems that allowed such behaviors to thrive. In the aftermath, the owner collaborated with community leaders to develop educational programs, focusing on cultural awareness and sensitivity. They created workshops that explored the impact of racism and discrimination, encouraging attendees to engage in self-reflection and open dialogue. The programs were met with enthusiasm, drawing in a diverse range of participants. People began to share their stories, forging connections that transcended differences. The owner saw firsthand the power of vulnerability and the strength of a community willing to confront uncomfortable truths. As the year progressed, the owner noticed a palpable shift in the atmosphere of the store. The shelves were still stocked, but the environment felt transformed. Conversations flowed more freely, laughter echoed through the aisles, and a sense of belonging permeated the space. The community had rallied around the store, and it had become a hub for dialogue and understanding. One evening, as the owner prepared for the monthly forum, they reflected on the journey. They thought about the initial incident, the fear, the anger, and the uncertainty. But now, they saw a community that had risen together, united in their commitment to create a better future. It was a testament to the strength that came from vulnerability and the importance of confronting issues head-on. The forum that night was particularly impactful. People from various backgrounds shared their experiences, illustrating the progress made and the road ahead. The owner took the stage to speak, feeling a surge of gratitude for the community's unwavering support. "We've come so far together, and I want to thank each of you for being a part of this journey. It's not just about the store, it's about all of us taking responsibility for our actions and the spaces we inhabit." As applause filled the room, the owner felt a sense of fulfillment wash over them. They had turned a painful incident into an opportunity for growth and change. The tension that had once filled the air had dissipated, replaced by a shared understanding and commitment to building a better tomorrow. In the months that followed, the forums continued to evolve, drawing in even more participants. The owner encouraged attendees to take what they learned back to their families, friends, and workplaces, spreading the message of inclusivity and understanding far beyond the store's walls. They realized that this was just the beginning of a much larger movement. As the community came together to celebrate their progress with a festival, the owner felt an overwhelming sense of joy. Colorful banners adorned the streets, and the atmosphere was filled with music, laughter, and hope. They watched as families mingled, friends connected, and the community embraced its diversity. It was a powerful reminder of what could be accomplished when people united against a common cause. As the festival drew to a close, the owner stood at the entrance of the store, watching the community come together. They felt a sense of pride in what had been achieved and knew that the journey was far from over. The fight against racism was ongoing, but now they had a community standing beside them, ready to confront challenges head-on. The story had come full circle, and the lessons learned would resonate for years to come. The experience had taught the community about the power of resilience, unity, and the importance of open dialogue. They had faced their fears, confronted their biases, and emerged stronger together. As the sun set on the festival, the owner looked out at the vibrant gathering, their heart full of gratitude. This was a community transformed, a place where everyone could feel safe, valued, and heard. It was a new chapter, and they were ready to embrace whatever came next, together. The journey of healing and growth continued, but the future was bright, filled with the promise of change and the unwavering strength of community.